It was windy at night. But despite that, and even the open tent site, the fortified Hillwalker tent stood like a rock. At such moments, you understand why the tent weighs and costs so much. The only thing that disturbed my sleep was the noise of the nearby river. I had forgotten my earplugs at home, and I had practically no sleep. The first climb in the morning was not big, about 150 meters. A storm was approaching, and I had to hurry to cross the higher passes. But due to poor sleep, I lacked the strength. In addition, I had not eaten a normal breakfast, only snacks. Therefore, each step was taken with difficulty. I planned to eat little later, when I would get over the first mountain pass. At times, the trail simply went over huge piles of rocks. Without ankle-fixing boots, it would be very easy to get injured here. It was clear that I would have to climb over that vertical rock wall. The climb was absolutely brutal. At times I was climbing over an almost vertical wall, and it was difficult with my huge backpack. On the mountain pass I saw a massive rain cloud and a wall of fog which was rapidly approaching me. Fortunately, the trail markings were close to each other and I could understand where to go next. The German hikers I met on the way confirmed my concerns that the trail would continue down into a deep valley. It was clear that it was at least 700 meters of altitude loss. After that, the trail would go up again along an equally steep slope. For a while, I still managed to successfully avoid the rain, but with each passing moment, the raindrops became more intense. So I put on rain pants and rain jacket, and I was ready for the rain. The fog became thicker and I lost the trail in places. Unfortunately, without offline navigation maps, it would be difficult here. I finally decided to take a break and have a snack by the clear mountain river. While I was sitting, the weather improved and the sun even started to shine. The candy I brought in the village of Setcases was just in time. Continuing the trail, I came to the signpost to Cap de Creus, which was 233 kilometers away. You can of course sneak into such a hut and spend the night, but you have to take into account that it is definitely full of marmots and other rodents. If I still decided to stay here, it would be better to pitch a tent nearby, so that the stone wall would protect me from the wind. Refugi de Illa, 2 hours, 15 minutes. The climb up this rocky canyon, through which a clear mountain river gurgled, was very pleasant. After climbing the first mountain, a view of an even steeper mountain opened up in the distance. This signpost could tell me no more than the cows nearby. But it was clear that I had to keep climbing. According to the offline map, there were about 200 meters of altitude left to climb. But at that point I had already reached my limits. The only motivator to push on was the thought that I would be able to buy a cold Diet Coke at the Refugi de Illa. So having gathered my last strength, I climbed up. If I understand correctly, I came down that steep mountain slope in the morning. After a 6-hour hike, I had finally reached Andorra, the state border with nothing more than a few wooden posts and a string in the middle. But symbolically, for me, it was much more. Signpost to Encamp, 5 hours. Of course, that was a very dubious time estimate. Because when I planned the trail to Encamp in advance, I remember that it should have taken much more time. But maybe it was at that moment that I had the idea to go to Encamp anyway. At first, it seemed that the refuge was closed. But as I walked to the other end of the building, I realized that I was lucky. The Refugi was open, and I would get a cold Diet Coke. Plus, there was Wi-Fi for a small fee. I booked a hotel in Encamp. It was clear that I would probably only get there in the dark, but the knowledge that I would be able to get a good night's sleep and eat hearty breakfast drove me forward. Also, it seems that the Coca-Cola I had just drank had also had a positive effect on me. And despite my fatigue, I literally rushed forward along the trail. I was in Andorra again, in the most beautiful mountain country in the world. A helicopter hovered in the distance. Autumn has also reached Andorra. The leaves on the trees are turning yellow-red. There are definitely fish living in this beautiful river. The trail, although it went downhill, was very rocky, and I couldn't develop a speed I had hoped for. There was no time to rest either, but I hadn't lost the hope of making it to the hotel before dark. By checking the map, I realized that the distance to the destination was indeed very long. And the chances of reaching the destination in daylight are, put it mildly, slim. Despite the lack of time, as always, I choose the original path. Signpost to Encamp, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Nightmare. The hut on the side of the path was full of small donkeys. The last meters to the Col de Jovel pass went very slowly. My strength was completely exhausted, and the sun had also started to set. Signpost to Encamp, 1 hour 40 minutes. But there could be about 30 minutes of daylight left. I had already started to go on autopilot. Tiredness, hunger, thirst. Everything was secondary. The main thing was to get to the destination. And every second was important. There's one of the Tamaro from Andorra up there. For the last hour, I walked down a rocky path in complete darkness. My headlamp was in the bag, but I didn't take it off because I was afraid I wouldn't have enough strength to put it back. But I finally made it to the hotel.